Good evening, brave souls. Tonight we venture into a tale of terror that will grip your heart and haunt your dreams. The small village of Al-Qusair was nestled deep within the desert, a place where time seemed to stand still. Life was simple, but the villagers carried a burden, an ancient legend that had been whispered for generations. It was said that once, a creature called El Salawa roamed the outskirts of the village, a terrifying beast that was neither wolf nor hyena, but something in between. It prowled under the cover of darkness, hunting those foolish enough to stray too far from the safety of their homes. Hassan, a 17-year-old boy with a restless heart, didn't believe in legends. His father, however, was a firm believer. El Salawa is no myth, his father would say, with grave seriousness. Stay close to the village, Hassan. I've seen the tracks myself. Hassan would nod respectfully, but deep down, he believed the stories were just tales to keep children from wandering off into the desert. It was only when the livestock began disappearing that Hassan started to reconsider. First, it was the goats. Then, a few camels went missing. Each time, there were no signs of struggle, just enormous paw prints in the sand and the faint echo of a growl at night. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Hassan's best friend, Yusuf, suggested something wild. Let's find El Salawa. Hassan laughed it off. Are you serious? It's just a story, Yusuf. Then what's taking our animals? Yusuf shot back, his voice filled with a mix of fear and determination. If it's real, we need to stop it before it takes more. Against his better judgment, Hassan agreed. The two boys set out that night, armed with nothing more than flashlights and an old rifle Yusuf had stolen from his father. The desert air was cool, but there was a heaviness to it, like the world was holding its breath. They followed the tracks leading out of the village, the deep paw prints clearer now under the moonlight. Every so often, they would hear a distant growl, but each time it seemed to come from a different direction, as if the creature was circling them. This isn't a good idea, Hassan muttered, scanning the horizon. The desert stretched out endlessly before them, empty except for the occasional dune. We'll be fine, Yusuf whispered, though his grip tightened on the rifle. Suddenly, a loud snarl echoed through the night, freezing them both in place. From the shadows, a figure emerged. Massive, its eyes glowing a sickly yellow in the darkness. It was El Salawa, its body hunched like a hyena's, but larger and more menacing. Its fur was matted and dirty, and its jaws hung open, revealing rows of sharp teeth that gleamed in the moonlight. Hassan's heart raced, his legs trembled, but he couldn't move. Yusuf raised the rifle, his hands shaking as he aimed. Before he could pull the trigger, El Salawa charged. Hassan shoved Yusuf out of the way, just as the beast leaped toward them. They scrambled to their feet, running blindly through the desert, the sound of El Salawa's heavy paws thudding behind them. We can't outrun it, Yusuf gasped. There's a cave ahead, Hassan shouted, his voice filled with desperation. They dove inside, just as El Salawa's claws swiped at them, missing by inches. The cave was narrow, its walls jagged and rough. The boys pressed themselves against the stone, panting and trembling. Outside, El Salawa prowled, its growls low and menacing. Its shadow cast large against the cave entrance. We're trapped, Yusuf whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of their labored breathing. Hassan's mind raced. They couldn't stay here forever. El Salawa would eventually get in. But then, a memory surfaced, something his father had once told him about the creature. It fears fire, Hassan said. his voice steady, despite the fear coursing through him. "We need to make a torch." Yusef looked around, panicked. With what? Hassan spotted a stick near the cave entrance, probably left by some traveler long ago. He grabbed it, wrapping his shirt around one end. "Light it with your flashlight," he said. Yusef hesitated, but did as he was told. The fabric caught fire, casting a warm glow in the cave. El Salawa snarled from outside, its eyes narrowing as the light flickered against the walls. "We need to drive it away," Hassan said, standing up. With the torch in hand, he slowly approached the entrance. El Salawa recoiled, snarling, but not retreating. "Get back," Hassan shouted, thrusting the torch forward. The creature growled, but stepped back, its eyes never leaving Hassan. Step by step, the boys edged out of the cave, keeping the torch between them and the beast. El Salawa circled them, its growls deepening, but it didn't attack. Finally, with one last snarl, it turned and vanished into the desert, its glowing eyes disappearing into the night. The boys collapsed, exhausted but alive. "We did it," Yusef whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. Hassan nodded, his heart still pounding in his chest. But as they made their way back to the village, he couldn't shake the feeling that El Salawa was still out there, watching them from the shadows, waiting for another chance to strike. That night, as Hassan lay in bed, his father's words echoed in his mind. El Salawa is no myth. And for the first time, Hassan believed him.